सर स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं.
Okay.
दुबे सर स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं.
Okay, we'll begin now. Durga ji, are you unmuted? Please unmute yourself. Yeah. Okay. 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 So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back and seeing so many people joining the Krishnamurti Study Circle Indore. Today, we have a special speaker, Mrs. Durga Rani Gedela. She has been a regular attendee to all our programs here, and we had requested her to give a talk, and she agreed, and I'm very, very thankful to her for this. And I want to extend a very warm welcome to Durga ji in today's session. She is going to talk to us about quintessential questions and search for answers, discovering Krishnamurti's books. So this is basically the theme of a talk. I'll briefly introduce Durga ji before the participants. Mrs. Durga Rani Gedela graduated from St. Teresa's College, Eluru in Andhra Pradesh, and she completed her post-graduation in English literature from the Andhra University, Visakhapatnam in 1982. She finished her B.Ed in 1988 from Amritsar. She has taught in various army schools for a period of 12 years at different intervals. Presently, she is residing in Port Blair, capital of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, with her spouse, who is a medical doctor. She came across Krishnamurti's books in the year 1994 and got very passionately connected with the teachings, which is, putting her own words, life-changing. In a journey spanning 2 decades as a mother, teacher, and as a layperson, planning to share her explorations, which were initiated, and findings that she came across in one's daily life and in the mirror of relationship. So with these words, I welcome Durga ji once again, and she is going to talk to us on quintessential questions and search for answers, discovering Krishnamurti's books. After Durga ji's talk is over, Durga ji, you have about an hour to complete your discourse. I request Dr. Gajanan Rao and Sri Tankha ji to give brief observations, followed by Dr. Harshad Parekh. So with these words, Durga ji, the floor is yours now. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Some problem with the audio.
Unmute first.
No, it's unmute. Please unmute. Unmute.
Unmute first.
We can't hear you. No, there's some problem. It gets muted again. It got muted again.
Durga ji, first leave and then join.
I think you can
First leave and then join.
Close and come back again. Close it and come back again.
ज्वाइन नहीं हुआ है अभी।
हाँ, she has not joined as it.
उन्होंने एक और फोन से ज्वाइन किया तो उसको मैंने मतलब अनम्यूट करने के लिए कोशिश की थी, अनम्यूट है तो अभी दोनों ही फोन पे दिख नहीं रहे हैं।
I'm Durga Rani's husband. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes. Yes.
Acha, then let me talk from here, sir. Okay.
She
Thank
can,
you.
she can share the screen with you. We have no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I think there is some. I think here there is no problem. Okay.
We can hear you now. No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's nice meeting you like this, sir. Today, I was preparing to remain in the background, but now the exigencies have forced me to come into the foreground, right? So I think let us hope that we'll keep meeting in future. Okay, no, you keep it like that. Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll keep the presentation for you. She has been at this job for quite a long time. So I hope that you'll all be happy.
You are
And
most
yours-
welcome to be with us.
Sir, is it okay now, sir?
Absolutely.
Welcome. You can start now.
Okay,
These are
sir.
the slides. You can
Okay.
watch the slides if
Leave.
you like.
I'll read from
Okay,
there.
Okay.
Okay. Now can I start, sir?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yeah. Namaskar, everybody. Very good morning to all of you. Very sorry for that disturbance. You can make out how nervous I am, and all these exigencies of using the you can say this technology and all. So anyhow, now that we are on, so let me start just speaking. At the outset, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to the organizers of JK Indore Center for giving me this opportunity to share this platform today and come before all of you and to share with all of you my tryst with K teaching, which has happened some 25 years ago. So I feel extremely privileged and extremely grateful. Thank you. Kindly allow also me to share my appreciation to the center, the administrators of the center, in a very cordial atmosphere, how these sessions are being conducted, and allowing all the participants to, share their perspectives, their understanding, their questions, and all that. So it's been a wonderful learning experience for me. And not only that, listening to all the speakers, the senior members of the center, like, who had spent their lifetimes with Krishnaji. And when they share their perspectives and understanding, and it's been very great learning experience also for me. So I thought I should express my appreciation. Now, the main objective behind my today's venture, it's a journey of a commoner, a layperson, and a housewife and a householder. And by sharing these perspectives and whatever little resonance I found in Krishnaji's teachings, so somewhere somebody may resonate well with this and it is of some value to them. So that being my main objective for today. Yeah. So yeah, let me start with today's topic. Yeah, this twist with Krishnaji's teaching happened in 93-94. That time I was in my early 30s, and my husband, being a physician, used to be very busy with his own work. My children were in schools and all that, and some questions started bothering me a little bit. We can call them, I think we all go through them. These quintessential questions. The first question used to be, what is the meaning and significance of life, if at all there is one? You know, this question used to bother me a little bit because our common understanding is what we see all around us. Like one is born, and then their childhood, their education, and then their adolescence with its own conflicts and issues and all that, and then your job, marriage, and then again your own children, and then again the struggle and the trials and tribulations of their own upbringing, their nurturing. It is like one kind of perpetual running after something or the other. And in no time, your old age comes, and one fine day there is an end to the entire story. So it is a common usual scenario we see all around us, and this question used to bother me. Is there any more meaning and sense to it, or is it all you know and one more question used to be there, that is why do we human beings behave the way we do? Like situation may be common, but some people they react in a certain way, and some respond in a different way, and for some any situation it doesn't impact them at all. So this kind of human differences used to fascinate me. So I used to wonder what triggers or motivates our human behavior. And apart from that, there used to be one more question, that was being a lover of nature from my childhood. I used to wonder this beautiful creation outside all of us, all around us. It used to be a replica. It looks like, at least, a replica of the creator. We don't know whether creator exists or not, but it is a replica of the creator. Then how come none of the so-called religious and spiritual books uh, they mention about nature? So it's not that I have read a lot of books by that time. And not only that, from our childhood days, we are told, with a lot of do's and don'ts, and a lot of traditions and rituals. And in some way, it kind of, subdues our behavior, subjugates human spirit. So this question used to bother me. Why is this all religion, So I think all these questions we do get at some point or the other in our lives. So with these questions, then I started reading books and all. And the first book I had read was, Chinmayananda's Commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. It was written so very well, Chinmayananda's Commentaries. So far, I feel that is the best book. It's bringing the essence of, all our maybe the Upanishads and, the essence of Krishna's teachings, So, and that was a big revelation. Like it felt, the original books, the real sources of the books, they don't deal with, small petty issues of do's and don'ts and all that. They speak in such a broad sense. And then I started reading Vivekananda, with whom I had resonated very well. The passionate spirit of Vivekananda and his upholding of Hinduism, Hindu Dharma. And more than anything else, Vivekananda's upholding of human spirit, that resonated very well with me. Well, then I think there are no dearth of these spiritual teachers in our heritage. Like, we have Aurobindo, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and Ramana Maharshi. So many teachers. We have, you can say, the vast repertoire of spiritual heritage we have. So, but somewhere, some questions are still bothering me. it felt that, like they were not addressing the day-to-day problems of human life. So at that juncture, instantly, it is my husband who introduced me to Krishnaji's books. He had heard of Krishnaji earlier, and one day he just gave me a book and said, he's a great philosopher, why don't you read them? Read him. Till the time, I hadn't heard of Krishnaji. It was 93, 94, and I don't know anything about him. Then I thought, okay, let me start reading. And that was Commentaries of Living Part 1. And few chapters into the book, I think I was hooked for my life with the Krishnaji's teaching. Actually, we all are very familiar with how the Commentaries of Living series are. Initially, all those beautiful descriptions of nature, they were so descriptive, they almost bring a visual picture before all of us when we read them, and they kind of take you into a kind of trance. So that itself has kind of answered my question, why nature is never there in the spiritual book. And within 2 pages, how Krishnaji slowly and at a steady pace, he leads us, he opens up the entire uh, psychological aspect of human life. Um, and that kind of a language, that kind of a dimension, we are not used to, we haven't heard of earlier, at least that's for me. Though nothing has been getting registered that time, but at the end of the book, I was filled with this deep curiosity. I just wanted to know who this teacher is and who is speaking so very well. So I just wanted to know more about him. So luckily for us, Pupil Jakar's biography of Krishnaji came into my hands. And halfway through the book, I could understand the entire phenomena of who Krishnaji was. So from there onwards, I think my interest with Krishnaji's teachings has started. And afterwards, I read Commentaries of Living, second and third series. And I think to get a hang over what Krishnaji is saying, not only we need to read maybe 10 or 12 books, and we need to give lot of time, lots of time, maybe months and years before something starts getting registered or so. So at this juncture, I just would like to read out a few extracts of Krishnaji's Commentaries of Living. I also edited some summary of it. So kindly allow me to read. This is the essence of Commentaries of Living. Beautiful nature descriptions which have musical, lyrical quality to them. So lucid and descriptive, one gets the visual experience simply by reading them. Slow yet steady pace, point by point, how K goes into describing the entire panorama of human behavior. What ails humanity, touching the deep and core issues. At other places, he thrashes human problems and in broad strokes dispels and shatters all the thought structures which are built in our common human psyche in the form of conditioning or of societal pressures. These books and the extracts serve as mirrors for humanity to see themselves. Through negation, one goes towards positive. Each word, every statement in these extracts are impregnated with meaning and depth. So this is a kind of a essence I felt like sharing with all of you what I feel about Krishna's books. And kindly allow me also to read few extracts from Commentaries of Living. I'm sure they are going to add a lot of value to our today's morning session. First thing I would like to read about the self. This is the Commentaries of Living first series. Why is it that we crave to be recognized, to be made much of, to be encouraged? Why is it that we are such snobs? Why is it that we cling to our exclusiveness of name, position, and acquisition? Is anonymity degrading? And to be unknown despicable? Why do we pursue the famous, the popular? Why is it that we are not content to be ourselves? Are we frightened and ashamed of what we are? That name, position, and acquisition become so all important. It is curious how strong is the desire to be recognized, to be applauded, through privilege, cleverness, or capacity and efficiency. One arrives somewhere near the top, though the top is never the top. But there is always more and more in the intoxication of success. The country or the business is yourself. On you depend the issues. You are the power. Organized religion offers position, prestige, and honor. There too, you are somebody, apart and important. Or again, you become the disciple of a teacher, of a guru or master, or you cooperate with them in their work. You are still important. You represent them, you share their responsibility, you give and others receive. Though in their name, you are still the means. You may put on a loincloth or the monk's robe, but it is you who are making the gesture. It is you who are renouncing. In one way or another, subtly or grossly, the self is nourished and sustained. Apart from its antisocial and harmful activities, why has the self to maintain itself? Though we are in turmoil and sorrow, with passing pleasures, why does the self cling to our outer and inner gratifications, to pursuits that inevitably bring pain and misery? The thirst for positive activity, as opposed to negation, makes us strive to be. Our striving makes us feel that we are alive, that there is a purpose to our life, that we shall progressively throw off the causes of conflict and sorrow. So this is about the self. And Krishnaji is asking so many questions. And one more thing I would like to read. This is about uh, facets of the individual. Yeah, this is one more extract from the Commentaries of Living, first series. We are many and not one. The one does not come into being till the many cease. The clamorous many are at war with each other day and night. And this war is the pain of life. We destroy one, but another rises in its place. And this seemingly endless process is our life. We try to impose the one on the many, but the one soon becomes the many. The voice of the many is the voice of the one. And the one voice assumes authority, but it is still the chattering of a voice. We are the voice of the many, and we try to catch the still voice of the one. The one is the many are silent to hear the voice of the one. The many can never find the one. Our problem is not how to hear the one voice, but to understand the composition, the makeup of the many, which we are. So I think in this short extract, I think he's referring to chattering mind and how much fragmented the whole psyche is. Yeah, and now I would just read short and brief extracts. This is on self-knowledge. This is from the name of the heading of the extract is the search for truth. Without the understanding of oneself, the search for so-called reality is an escape from oneself. Without self-knowledge, the God that you see is the God of illusion. And illusion inevitably brings conflict and sorrow. Without self-knowledge, there can be no right thinking. And then all knowledge is ignorance, which can only lead to confusion and destruction. Self-knowledge is not an ultimate end. It is only opening wedge to the inexhaustible. Self-knowledge is to be discovered in the action of relationship. And all action is relationship. Self-knowledge does not come about through self-isolation, through withdrawal. The denial of relationship is death. Self-knowledge is the discovery from moment to moment of the ways of the self, its intentions and pursuits, its thoughts and appetites. So he's speaking about self-knowledge here. And kindly also allow me to read 2-3 brief extracts. See what Krishnaji has to say about desire. This is the name of the chapter is The I. Desire may break itself up into many opposing and conflicting urges, but it is still desire. These many urges go to make up the I with its memories, anxieties, fears, and so on. And the entire activity of this I is within the field of desire. It has no other field of activity. That is so, is it not? So all these extracts, they are so intense in their nature. And whenever we read them, I think we keep discovering new dimensions and new facets to these extracts. And finally, just want to read about what does Krishnaji, have to say about what is life all about. So this, I think, this extract I have taken from Commentaries of Living, third series. What is life all about? Life is beauty, sorrow, joy, and confusion. It is the tree, the bird, and the light of the moon and the water. It is work, pain, and hope. It is death, the search for immortality, the belief in and the denial of the supreme. It is goodness, hate, and envy. It is greed and ambition. It is love and the lack of it. It is inventiveness and the power to exploit the machine. It is unfathomable ecstasy. It is the mind, the meditator, and the meditation. It is all things. But how do our petty, confused minds approach life? That is important. Not the description of what life is. On our approach to life, all questions and answers depend. So these are the few extracts I had brought for today. Hoping that they will definitely, throw some light on this main issues which trouble us, understanding ourselves and aspects of life. Yeah, I would like to share the names of the books, which according to me were easy reading. So I brought one more slide actually, but everything is went for a 6, so I'm just going to read them. When Krishnaji is speaking with school children and young people and all, so he comes out with better for us to understand which way he's pointing to. Like he discusses very practical, simple problems of our life, our day-to-day living, and he comes out with his uh, analogies. Reading them, I think we get kind of pointers to get a hold on what he is trying to say. So unless and until we know how to sort out our day-to-day problems, like maybe setting the house in order, or different psychological issues, and all of them. So the other dimension which he is speaking of is, I don't think we will be able to understand that. So I feel the understanding the basic core issues of our life, they are very important. So, like the books like Beginnings of Learning, Letters to Young Friend, they all they are replete with practical wisdom and practical solutions. So one get a direction, which way is pointing to. Education and Significance of Life, Awakening of Intelligence, Notebook of K, K to Himself, accounts written by other people who were close to him. So these books, they helped me a great deal. I thought I should share with you all. In the time of confusion and all, I keep going back to them. But the problem with Krishnaji's teachings is we cannot imitate them. We cannot become followers of them. I think unless and until we use our own common sense, our own, whatever the tools we have with us, the thinking processes or, our thought processes. So we need to use them, those faculties as well. Otherwise, just making Krishnaji's, statements as the dictum, I think it may not work that way, according to me. That's what my experience has been. So these are the books I read, and um, so other now I would like to share summary of 2 case statements that remain with me, for long. Like first of all, he says few of the statements. Actually, Krishnaji's every word and every paragraph statement is true and beautiful in its own way. But a few statements remain with us, and they keep working on us. Maybe one resonates well with them. So observe everything: nature, people, things, and happenings that go around. So observation, I think it plays a very important role in case the entire books and texts. And he used to say, even while you are driving a car or somewhere, you take few seconds and keep looking at the sky or the tree or the bird. And I think I heard once somewhere that he used to tell this to children when they go from one class to the other. So not to be so much in their own chattering selves, just to take a look at the birds and the butterflies, the flowers around. So in a way, I feel that allows us to be not so self-absorbed in our own way, in our own world, in our own problems, in our own issues. So time and again, observation is a very key factor in these books. And it says nature, people, and things. So, and I think these are all kind of reminders also, like we being what we are, with our short and limited span of attention, or we have that trajectory of going back into our problems and mulling over them. So these kind of reminders help us remain grounded and go back to the teaching sometime or the other. And is the second statement that really made a lot of sense. Without using words, can we watch any object? I think here he wants us to give the we are so much used to these words from our childhood, because words are the first things that are part of our growth. So any beautiful scene we see, we have to come out with a big exclamation, and we hear any conversation, we come out with our own conclusions and our judgments and all that. So he says, observing, everything, any object, without naming it, without using your words. So in a way, this is a kind of a different kind of a pointer, I feel. So, you know, by just by creating some space in our minds, it's maybe it's a practice. This may not happen just over a period of in a jiffy, or it may not happen in just like that. I think this taking time out and looking at objects without using the words and describing them and all. So slowly, maybe one start understanding the real importance and significance of it. Why so much stress is given by Krishnaji in observing things without naming them, without using your uh, descriptive words and all that. So, and the third statements, I think we are all very familiar with this. Watch everything without condemning, judging, comparing, and analyzing. This is also very fundamental. We have been hearing these statements are very common to our practical understanding by now. We have been reading Krishna for so many years. So this is again taking, giving a pause. Known day to day, that mind which runs in all directions, the mind which remains active, because we have known only one way of functioning. That's been our upbringing. That's been we have been brought up. So he is pointing in a different direction. We are used to traveling in the north. So suddenly he comes and he says travel in the completely opposite direction. So these things may not register at the initially, but when they remain part of us, they start acting on us, and slowly, and maybe they start revealing their own true contours and all. And the fourth one I have written, that is, you must begin very near to go far. I think this is a very time and again he says, you are the world and the world is you. If there is anything to do, read the book of your own life, and before understanding anything, it is important that one needs to understand oneself. So that is self-understanding, and I think that is leading to self-knowledge. So, so all his dialogues, talks, and discussions, whether it is a 1 hour or 2 hours, so they touch upon all the issues. The most complicated issue for us, from there to the simplest of issues. So he says we need to come back to ourselves, take time for ourselves, and give time to all these things, and ponder, reflect on all these things. And one more sentence I have written. Remaining with questions, allowing the questions to reveal the answers. Questions themselves contain answers. So this is one more very poignant statement of Krishnaji. On the top of it, they look like mere statements, but they are great pointers, and they are kind of aphorisms. We can see. So he says, don't be. We usually we are always in a hurry to understand any issue, and if we are not understanding, if we are not able to understand a particular issue, we soon feel fed up or something like that. So remaining with the question, and allow the question to act on you. So I think one is where your ordinary life, it keeps going on with all its activities and all. But somewhere, whatever we have read or listened of Shruti's, all these statements, they remain with us. and they come back to us, and they propel us to, think about them, reflect on them, and meditate on them. So I think that is the contribution of Krishnaji. And somewhere also had read in I think in his small book of letters to schools. He says, people leave me and go away, but I don't leave them. So whatever we have read of Krishnaji's book, we may not have the intensity to pursue immediately or at once, but they remain with us in our unconscious or subconscious or conscious mind, and sometime or the other they keep coming back to us. So he says, allow the questions to reveal the answers to you, and I think it depends upon each and every individual, how far they are interested, they are passionate about finding out. I think it works that way. And also I would like to say, in my recent conversation with a very long time Krishnamurti reader, he said that to me that, we may not be able to travel all the way Krishnaji intended us to travel, but reading Krishnaji and understanding few things at least, we know what are the gross, irregularities that are happening in our psyche, in our society, all those phony gurus and, all the corrupt politicians. I think it is just a common sense also, but in many other subtle ways also, Krishnaji maybe gave a warning to us, what it is to take and what it is not to take, like, seeing the false as false and truth in the false. Those are all famous statements. There are plenty of them. So, yeah, and I think with this I come to the end of my presentation. Sorry for the initial, hitches and glitches due to this. I just would like to read one sentence by, I just want to read this German philosopher Nietzsche. I just would like to read his quote. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. I feel asking questions about why rather than how and what, one begins to understand things in a better way. This had been my favorite quote. And I would like to say, listening and learning are two very important aspects of life. And I think we should be open to all that. We should be listening and learning. Then only life has a lot of opportunity to tell its own lessons, giving its own lessons. I think, thank you for the patient hearing. That's all for today. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Durga ji. Very nice presentation. Thank you for sharing your journey and also sharing those profound questions that you read out from the Kashmir's books. It's important, Krishna has given tremendous importance to listening, to working together, to seeing. And I think it's very important how we take those teachings and how we receive them ourselves, because we can only begin from where we are. So depending on our capacity, we can go as far as we can. And there is no place to be reached. There is no goal post. So it's an unknown, uncharted land, and you go wherever you can go. Thank you again. Thanks for sharing all your experiences. With these words, may I request Dr. Gajanan to make some observation, followed by Mr. Harsh Tankha and Dr. Harshad Parekh. Sir, Gajanan Rao, sir.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. I'm really glad Srimati Durga Rao. I got a wrong name right. Durga Devi, right?
Durga Rani.
Durga Rani.
They call me Durga.
Durga. Must be speaking Telugu?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. इसलिए से चल गई.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, it's Tamilish thing.
Okay.
But also put it in your own whatever backgrounds
Yes.
and whatever division you belong to, the sect and the country and various identification. Rani garu, you really opened our eyes how Krishna ji can yield answers to many questions unanswered, provided this kind of a meditative travel through life. Yes, you said, not judging, not naming, not condemning, and not praising, which you always do. You see something, you must say beautiful. You must see something ugly. You know, these adjectives are, filling our minds and they come out as you speak. You can't pass something which is rather not wrong, rather right, rather not right. You must share this with how we act. I think we have lost the capacity to see with a certain intensity, understand with a certain depth. It becomes a habit, not learn and not grasp anything. But that's one reason why I think we have let Krishnaji go without many of us grasping the essence of what he was saying. As you said, attention is important. Attention is so important. And to staying with a question with attention is very important. I never understood this matter when he said, stay with it, stay with it. And the question is more important than the answer and so on. But as you go along life, you do think, except maybe in the examination, where the boy prepared for many years and is doing the final exam, he can't stay with the question and not finish answering and go to the next question. Even there, I would say, if the person doesn't look into the question properly and starts answering, there will be a lot of difficulties. There's one candidate in our own school and our own principal. I'm in charge of, I'm chairman of the school in a way which we founded with some people who are educationists and care related, which is going on for 25 years. And one of our very intelligent student was at a physics paper, and she produced a page of answer, completely misunderstanding the question. And lo, our own principal was the invigilator. But then I was very happy when he told me he didn't tell us answering wrongly. Because, in ISCs, they trust us, our own principals and invigilators, our own senior teachers. I think he was very happy. Not that she answered wrongly, but the principal standing by, he was a physics man, didn't feel like telling her, look, you can read a question properly. And of course, she's a very eminent person. She is eminently placed in England in a very big job as a vice president of a company, big company, medical company. So anyway, to say that stay, I had also discussed with someone who's been very much interested in Krishnamurti and the person who studied his teachings deeply. To stay is not an inactive state. To stay with something is a very active state. To stay with something with a meditating mind is energizing, not go off it. And it opens several other things to you. You've only been staying and seeing, going into depth if possible. I even go into the dictionary sometimes to what the dictionary says about the meaning, but then leave it of certain words. And he would also be very interested in going into dictionary and what it says, like education. he would say is leisure. School is leisure. No one had said that to me, school is leisure. So I shouldn't take a long time. I would rather like people like Harsh Parekh and Harsh, not Harsh Parekh, Harsh Tankha and Harshad Parekh, who have been really working on themselves and stayed in places where Krishnaji has been, to really show us the way out of our difficulty. Although we let go of tradition, our difficulty to stick into very formidably, very into some habits that are deeply formed in us. Another day when Krishna was shouting at people, let me see if you can give up one habit where you are caught deeply. Can you give up one habit you are caught deeply? That really shook me, because I just went over certain habits I'm into, and occasionally people had pointed out. It is very, very educating, illuminating to do that exercise, because it means coming away from tradition in a way. It means being fresh with yourself. It means opening your ears and eyes to lots of things. Otherwise, you're caught in a habit badly, in a groove, very difficult to be out. So, I really, Durga Garu met Krishnamurti in 70s, and I woke up. I was a doctor by then, treating lots of patients, but then completely forgetting what I am, what humanity is. He opened your eyes to so many things. As I said, in company you learn, in relationship you learn. So many things you learn in relationship rather than sitting by it. It's a great eye-opener to know something about, see, quickly you're envious, quickly you're angry, quickly you're annoyed. He made you see that in you. And that's the waking up call, finished. You don't have to do it. That's one thing. Seeing and doing are one. There's a great sentence of his. Seeing and doing. Not seeing, mulling over, as I said, thinking over it, wanting to do that, all right, tomorrow. All these are things that come in the way. So understanding is quick and doing is quick. And however old you may be, you wake up to situations. You wake up to the poverty of the other man. You wake up to the beauty of something. You wake up to the fragrance of something. That's keeping alive, which Krishnamurti really taught me. Keep alive. Don't sleep off. Lots of things are happening. So I wouldn't go into this very much more. I only want to say that our way of understanding is analysis. Can it change? Can it change? And generally, we don't think that we are capable. That Durga, I think, pointed out. We are all capable. For some reason, we don't. But then we can. So with that, our travel with Krishnamurti or whatever he's saying is true. He didn't allow us to imagine we have got it. Many times he reminded you, no, sir, don't imagine that's very dangerous. You've done something, oh, you pat yourself, look, I manage it this way. No, be humble to yourself. Self is there. You keep praising yourself, patting yourself, going to depression, oh, I didn't do it. All these things are on the way. So it's a very, I really am thinking, I'm not able to get to one thing and say something today, but all that you pointed out were very good pointers, and his pointers are very powerful if you're only listening to them deeply. And it can change humanity. We are looking to a day when we call it change. I think people who are interested in Krishnamurti and are with him in so many ways, are the people who must lead to bring about a change in society. We can't be sleeping off. Not that you must rub Krishnamurti on people, that becomes very bad. You become the enemy of so many people. Please don't do that. If we have youngsters at home, we cannot keep on thinking Krishnamurti and keep saying do's and don'ts. You must allow them, enjoy them, and then be with them. So being a role model changes them like teachers do, and not seeing them. We also learned that from Krishnamurti. Being subtle, sensitive, you know. Anyway, there's a sea of things we need to do. I don't know if you have a lifetime, but if we set the ball rolling, maybe the rest of humanity catches up. It's our duty, I feel, having been with Krishnamurti present. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity, Durgaji and Krishnaji.
Thanks a lot. May I request Harshad now to make some brief observations, please?
It's just checking. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Durgaji, first for sharing with us how you became interested, and particularly your initial questions that led you, the inquiry that led you to not just Krishnamurti, but reading other people until eventually you found that Krishnamurti had things to say to you that were very important, because I think that parallels how we all come to Krishnamurti, that we have questions in our lives. They may not be the same questions. There may be people, you know, there is, they lose someone who they care for, and then they start asking questions about life, or they have problems in relationship with their partners, wives, husbands, children. They start asking questions. Or maybe they just look at what's happening in the world and see the mess that is being created and how societies are not really able to live well together. So the starting question may be different for everybody, but I think what you pointed out is important, is that we begin with questions that are real and immediate for us. You know, we can read Krishnamurti and Krishnamurti says, observer is the observed, and then we can start asking questions about that and trying to understand what he's saying. And it has some value, but unless a question is very immediate and very relevant and heartfelt and understood, you're not going to have the energy to explore for very long. So I think that is a very important point. And I think another thing that you said, you didn't directly point to it when you talked about nature and how Krishnamurti talks about nature, which I completely agree with you. I think it's one of the more important things that he says. That I think he said that the person who has lost touch with nature has lost touch with himself, right?
Yeah, yes.
So because we are part of nature and nature is part of us, we are, and we must never forget that. But people sometimes say that Krishnamurti is like other people, the Buddha, maybe Ramana Maharshi, others, you know, there's a long, as you were saying, a spiritual tradition. And yes, there are all kinds of things that they say, the importance of the silent mind, the importance of, let's say, non-attachment, of becoming free of desire, even understanding the self, freeing the self. Many people have talked about all of these things. And so there is, but there are some things where Krishnamurti is actually completely different. And I must admit, I haven't studied a lot of other people. I have some, not that it's zero, but this insistence on the sense of being one with nature, that I see much, much, much stronger in Krishnamurti. And in fact, in the schools where I taught for a long time, that was one of the key factors when we set up our curriculum, that there must be in the curriculum a time for this communion with nature, and that the students should learn the importance of just being with nature. So that's an area of difference. I mean, there are other areas of difference, like, no gurus, no rituals, nothing will take you to the truth. It's a pathless land, and so on. So you could actually, but I'm just pointing out that this oneness with nature is something that is pretty much
Very
unique,
Yeah.
very unique to Krishnaji. And to me, I'm always a little bit annoyed when, not annoyed, but when people make a kind of too easy comparison. Yes, he's part of that same long tradition of spiritual leaders, or very similar. What he's saying is like what so-and-so is saying. I think actually the differences between him and others are really the more significant part of what he had to say. And I think you also mentioned watching everything without judging. And this is really, if there is anything like a method in Krishnamurti, if there is anything that he's saying that you should be doing, right?
Yeah.
It's this. Firstly, that he says that we have to understand ourselves. And as you said, we have to start very near. We have to start with ourselves.
Yeah.
But then we mustn't fall into the trap of thinking of only ourself and not recognizing that ourself is really like every other self, and to see the commonality of all us human beings. But that is absolutely central. If you were to look at the thing, little one-page thing called The Core of the Teachings that he wrote, this is right at the beginning. He says, the self-knowledge. And how do you achieve self-knowledge? It's through observation, directly, not secondhand, not by reading Krishnamurti or anything. It's by observing the self. And where do you observe the self? Because the self hides. You can sit quietly under a tree and think you're free of anger, but then you're driving along the road and somebody in a car cuts across you, and suddenly the anger flares up. They call it road rage. So it's been hiding. And it's in relationship that the self asserts itself. So that is the importance of relationship, which I think you also mentioned. And so I think Gajanan Raoji also mentioned staying with the question. It's a difficult thing. I mean, it's not immediately obvious what is meant by staying with the question. Because in a way, the question is in the background. You're not necessarily articulating the question to yourself all the time. And there may be many questions. So best is I can give an example. I mean, if you're a parent, you have a very young child, and the child is playing around. You're not asking the question all the time, what might be harmful? Is what the child doing going to hurt? It may even be focusing on something else. You may be reading or cooking or doing something, working on something while the child is around. But somehow you're alert that the moment the child begins to move towards something, you're not consciously saying.
Yes.
So you are actually holding a question. Is what is happening dangerous for my child? So
Exactly.
that question is there in your mind. And you're alert to that. And you're alert around you, alert to what is happening around you. And just the same way as you might be alert to the anger or the rise of anger, if you're observing the process of thought, then you're alert to the rising of anger. And just as with the child, you act. It is not a long, you don't say, is this good? You don't spend hours mulling over or discussing whether you just move and remove them from their hand from the fire if it's moving towards the fire. So there is, I think this is a thing that Krishnamurti talks about. There is no gap between perception and action. So this is a quality of the kind of attention that he's talking about, that you observe the movement of the self. In everyday things, there's nothing, you don't have to sit in a corner observing yourself, insulated, in daily action, everyday life. You see the uprising of the thoughts, the movement of thought that is self. And in the same instant, you see it for what it is, and it's negated. There is no further action. It's no different from seeing a car coming, rushing along the road. So you don't step into the road. You see the car, you don't step into the road. There's no great thought involved. It's just, if you're alert, if you're alert to the whole thing. If you're not alert, then of course you can do the wrong thing. You can, or fail to do the wrong thing.
Yes.
So I think this question of the state of mind, which is alert in that way. Another thing that occurred to me, I think, as people were talking, was, people are often like to say that, oh, I haven't understood this, or I can't, I don't have this intelligence acting in my life. I don't have. And of course, one of the things we like to do, and I think we need to recognize this, is anything we are saying about ourselves, anything, even quietly to ourselves in our mind, I haven't got it, or I haven't understood this, is a story I'm telling myself. It's a narrative. And it's made up of images that I have of myself. And one of the stories which you're very fond of telling is that intelligence doesn't act in a mind. I haven't understood this. I haven't got it. I haven't reached it. I haven't, So I'm not suggesting that means that you have got it. But I think we need to recognize this narrative that we have made up in our minds, a whole narrative about the teachings, about what it means. It's almost unavoidable. Even though Krishnamurti is saying, challenge everything that I'm saying. And we do. We question, we sit, we try and understand, we look for ourselves, so we don't not do that. But somewhere along the line, it becomes very easy when he makes a statement about something, that statement sticks in our mind, as you said. The statement remains with us. But whether that statement is something that we are blindly accepting, or whether it's a statement that we are questioning, I'm afraid it's very easy to fall into accepting Krishnamurti, particularly if one has been involved in it for some time. And I'm speaking from, obviously, I've been involved in Krishnamurti for a long time. That is very easy because he's often so right.
Yes.
That it's very easy to accept his statement without questioning it. It's a kind of laziness, It's So I think I'd just like to say one more thing before I finish, which is that you mentioned books, Krishnamurti books, and you didn't say very much about books, but I haven't read a lot of Krishnamurti books, largely because I've heard the talks themselves, and the books are really books of the talks. So I've tended to focus on listening to the audio or the video. And of course, I've been fortunate enough to have been in many discussions, which I recorded. So, so one thing to say about, firstly, about listening to him. When you listen to him, either video or audio, one of the most surprising things are the huge, he speaks so slowly, and there are huge gaps between, the gaps are actually the spaces he's leaving for your own internal responses, not your necessarily your external responses. When he says, yeah, do you see this? And then there's the silence. And that is the opportunity for you to yourself look at that thing and see what it's, whether you see it or not. And so the silence, the cadence, the way he talks, all of that is as much part of
The teaching, yes.
as
Yes.
So the books don't have that, right? And one tends to, go on,
But yeah, for me, sir, like, you know, the books were the first ones I got connected with him.
Yeah.
And like, you know, those days in 93, 94 and all, that time I haven't heard any videos, I haven't heard any audios also.
Yeah.
But even now, for me, the books really, you know, they have a better impact on me, you know. With the book, you know, you read something and you stay for a while and then you leave it, because in one go you can't read the entire thing also. So for me, the connection was made with the books. I started watching videos and all those things later on, much later on.
Yeah.
But books were the ones, you know, which got me connected to him, and for a long time they remained like that. Yes.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I was going to say something similar in
Yes,
just
yes.
a minute.
Yeah.
I did a K class with students at Brockwood, and we used to read the books together. Now, I have never in my life been able to get to the end of one talk because of what you say. You read a sentence or two and it strikes you, and then you put it down. So in my class, that's what I would do. The students would read one or two sentences, and I say, well, what do you make of this? What are your thoughts about this thing? What is, this is just, think that Krishnamurti is sitting with us. He's one of us. He's just said this. And he is, now what is your response to this? And then everybody would, whoever wanted to would say something that struck them at that moment. And then we'd read the second sentence, So there were classes, 1 hour long classes, where we might only succeed in reading half a page of the book, but we read it with great intensity. So you're right there too, that is an advantage of a book, that you can stop and that you can consider, and you can do actually what Krishnamurti is asking us to do, to look for oneself and see what that means for us.
And it's not that, in one go you can read so many books also, sir. Like,
Absolutely.
Regarding on your maybe your interests or your moods and all, like different books start happening into your life, coming to your life, and sometimes you can't even read the entire book. Halfway through the book, you feel okay, this is what it is, and sometimes you leave the book and after a long time again you come back to the book. So they don't happen in one go. You can't read Krishnamurti's book. It's such an intense reading.
Yes.
And we also need other sorts of entertainment and all that. But somehow, once you're connected, means I think you keep going back to him, and some new revelation or something like that, that comes to you or something like that. So I think Krishnaji's books happen that work like that. Like nobody can sit with them and read them and go and all that. So that's what I have to say. Yes, sir. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Yes. As I say, you're talking about whole book. I've never
Yeah.
read a full chapter. I've never
Yes.
succeeded in reading a full chapter. But
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, it's taken so much time, and then something else happens, and something else enters. And as you say, something
Yeah.
else that he has written becomes more important or urgent at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the entire dimension is so different, Krishnaji's dimension, though it looks so, you feel that he's speaking about every day-to-day life, but
Yeah.
there are so many layers and so many dimensions to each statement. And I feel it's a lifelong journey of explorations and all that. It's like, not maybe it takes many lifetimes, I don't know, but I just have to say that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. The way
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir. Please go
yeah,
ahead.
okay, yeah,
Sir, please go ahead.
okay. Are you able to hear my voice?
Sir, yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Are you able to
Yes.
hear? Yeah, okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Durga ji. You mentioned commentaries on living. Those books are my most favorite books because there is so many people of many different backgrounds. They come to Krishna ji, and sometimes there is one-to-one dialogue. And as you said, the beautiful description of nature. And from nature, in the next paragraph, Krishna ji goes to himself, and something very beautiful, his observation about human beings, about nature comes out. And then there is a dialogue between the person who comes to Krishna ji and Krishna ji. Slowly, step by step, Krishna ji takes the person to the source from where our problems come. And the first book which I read, which I came across, was The Flight of the Eagle. And that book itself made me look deeper within myself from where these problems were coming, because Krishna ji said that the problems are coming from thinking. And so one has to go to the source of thinking. And for that, it requires one needs to be very, very quiet, very alert, attentive, curious to look at the beginning. And when I begin to do that, I really found that Krishnaji was correct, that even this sense of self, it comes from thinking. And then the self says, I like it, I don't like. So in Krishnaji's word, the duality between thinker and thought, that is the source of all our psychological problems. And when we begin to look at our own self, what I used to do, I used to read Krishnamurti book for about 10-15 minutes. Then I will close the book. And then I did not think about what Krishnaji was talking about or writing about, but I like to look at my own mind and how these thoughts were coming. So in that way, I felt that I begin to look very, very clearly at how these problems are arising in relationship with people in the daily life. And it opened up something new in my life, what Krishnaji calls this choiceless awareness, this awareness which can look
at thinking as it is arising. And when this dimension of awareness, which is not thinking, when it comes, it begins to change. Within some changes begin to happen within our body and even in our brain. And then our way of looking changes, which I felt that everything began to look very new, fresh, very beautiful. And as I began to look deeper and deeper within myself, then even I could drive a car and at night and see the real beauty of the street lights and with complete awareness, not making any thinking, it's just looking. And that looking can become our even nature. And if we can even look at a snake or a panther or human beings or a tree or a flower. And there's a newness which happened in my life after reading Krishnamurti. And even Krishnaji says, even the experiences which you go through, even the beautiful experiences, is of no use. It is in the past. So what is happening now, moment by moment, what is unfolding within us, in that there is a real source of learning. And the real understanding is looking non-verbally, not thinking. I did not analyze. And also Krishnaji says, analysis is a paralysis. And some sentences which I read in Commentaries on Living, like when Krishnaji said to an artist, the word parrot has blocked you from looking at the thing which flies. So we don't look at the thing. Generally, our mind is very active in thinking. So we really don't look at the thing. And that looking at the thing is very, very beautiful. And to another person, Krishnaji said, when the person said, the more I have thought or more I have discussed about love, it has become very clear. And Krishnaji asked, has love become clear or what you think about it? So one can be very, very clear about what love is and one can give a talk, but that love itself is different. And that can happen, that love, only when we don't have this sense of self-ego. And one cannot suppress or control ego. Why it has to come to an end by itself. And then this thing, love, beauty, real happiness, it comes when there is no sense of self. And what I have found, that we are not thinking. Thinking has become a habit, and most of our thoughts, they are coming and going, and we are not even observing. So when we really become very curious, sometime, like when I get up early in the morning, I catch up a song which is going on in my mind, and I don't know how that song comes. It is a very, very old song which I have not heard for many days, but something comes. So it seems that we are connected with many, many things around us, with many human beings, with nature. And the thinking is just happening, but we have the ability to look at how this thinking comes, and then the thinking may stop when we really observe it. Otherwise, it can go on. Okay, I have said enough. There are many other people would like to ask questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Mr. Rama Rao has a point. Yes, sir, go ahead. Ask.
Sir, is it for it is for the Mr. Gajanan Rao. The question is, you mentioned staying with something is energizing state. It is a fact. I could see that. And simultaneously, after some time, you told that let go. So I felt this both are contradictory statement. Please, can you explain bit?
I don't know whatever I said. It's my habit to forget it. Anyway, yes, staying with, I thought was a romantic term when I first listened to Krishnamurti. And suppose you are staying with something, in a sense, in an active state, like you're maybe pondering over it, as Harshad was saying, you come off it, but the phrase, the situation, the things that he threw a pointer at is staying. And probably you're just about to fall asleep. You're turning it over in the mind, like reading a page. Would you not be off it? I don't know if I said that, but how long will you stay with a thing till it yields an answer? It's not possible. It may not yield an answer at all. Let go. They come again. I don't know if I meant that. Whatever I said, I didn't know. I was a little wandering. But I do feel staying with is importance. Coming off it also has importance. You don't make it very stale. Even this question of staying with shouldn't be a stale phrase with us. Stay with it. Yes, whether you like it or not, you're staying with a few things. It may be uncomfortable for a while to stay with something. Keep to that uncomfortableness till you know why you're uncomfortable with it. Is it a phenomenon occurring in you that you don't like it yourself, others may not like it? So you want to quickly come off it? No, I didn't mean that way coming off. Coming off is only if you naturally come off it. One. Number two, you somewhere suddenly it becomes a struggle, you let go. Not that you can let go that which you deeply want to understand, it may come back to you. I don't know if I was suggesting that, I don't remember, sir, but have you ever experienced staying with something for a while till it yielded some meaning to you, Mr. Rao?
Yes, sir.
Ramarao?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And staying with something, as Tankha was pointing, I suddenly understood when he said, he asked a question and he's not proceeding with anything. He just, there is a halt there, there is a silence there, it is planted in you. Wonderful things happen. And, we are all too quick, and we want everything happening in a moment. Of course, whatever happens only happens in a moment. That's a different thing. You may have worked on it for a long time. It happens in a moment. So that's also there. Saying with has a tremendous meaning, not only because Krishnaji pointed out. We quickly turn a page because you're uncomfortable. That doesn't make a change. That's all. Probably. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sushilji, I think we have come to the end of the session now. And unmute yourself, unmute. Sushilji, yeah.
Krishnaji.
Yeah, sir, please declare the next Sunday's lecture.
Okay, okay. So next Sunday we have Mr. Santi Bogni. He is from Italy. The lecture will be at 11 o'clock. and he's going to talk on everyday life and emptiness. Please join us next Sunday at the same time, same link. And thank you once again, Durga ji.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm very sorry for the slight delay in the beginning.
It's okay.
I'm so
Forget
nervous.
it.
I think the
Forget
So
it.
nervous with all this technology and all. So
It is
sorry for
all
that.
over.
And thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you.
It
Thank
is
you.
all over. Thank you, Dubey, and
Thank
thank
you.
you to all participants.
Thank you.
Please
सुशील
close.
जी, दुबे जी
Yeah.
को एक संडे दुबे जी को एक संडे दीजिए. उन्होंने थर्सडे कुछ भाषण किया है, मैंने भूल गया, मैंने सुना ही नहीं.
I'm going to talk to you on Sunday, 22nd August.
Oh, good.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
I also suggested the same thing, sir. I heard Dubeji's talk Thursday, and it was so beautiful. I also suggested the same thing to him. It should be on done
Yeah.
on a Sunday. Yeah.
When we started the
You know-
Sunday Indore group, then I spoke for two days. That in the beginning we had very few people who wanted to come, but slowly things picked up. So I'll come back again on the third week of August. I'll be
Okay,
here.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Rao.
Harshad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, every speaker and all participants.
Kamlesh ji, please close.
Yes, sir.